Is there like one event
Uh,
where you're like, holy shit, I can't believe we made it out of that?
yeah, yeah. So pretty much everyone on my last ODA has Valor Awards from one specific mission. We got in two separate near ambushes um, on this operation, right? We had multiple SF guys blown up by a grenade, tons of Afghans hit. So yeah, I think that's the one we all sort of remember. That's, I've got a picture of the morning after that, that has the, that typical 1,000 yard stare look. It's the only one where it's really, you can see like, oh, your eyes are pretty much glossed over and glazed. So yeah, I mean, that's the big one that, I could sort of walk through kind of how
Yeah,
that
let's
all
hear it.
played out. And so yeah, we were going into an area in Taran Kowt, which is sort of a little bit north of Afghan, or a little bit north of Kandahar. That basically, up to 2013, we had already completely controlled that whole area, and then obviously we went away from VSO, which VSO is, for those who don't know, SF would live out in the villages, right, and all over Afghanistan. So we had really taken over a lot of the country that way, and then when we did the drawdown around 2013, all that went away and the Taliban came back and took everything. So we were going back into an area that the Taliban sort of created into a stronghold. And we had to infill into the objective, and we had to infill about a kilometer away just based off of where we could get the aircraft to land because of the terrain. And the spot that we decided to land at, we had seen on the imagery beforehand, there was this little dilapidated, the ISR imagery, the Google Earth imagery is always not the most up to date, right? It would just look like this big dilapidated compound nobody had used for 10 years. So we figure out, all right, we'll land just right on the outskirts of that. So we were flying in, and our helicopter, we landed at two separate locations, about 300 meters apart. And where we landed was in this sort of field with a tree line in between, into, well, I like to describe, once we got off that helicopter and started moving, I was the element leader at the time. I like to think, when I'm describing it, to put it in people's heads, is if you're walking through the, forest and you're coming to an open area, think about being maybe on like the 50-yard line of a football field. And then you look to your left, you have the big open football field, and sort of where the end zone is this huge compound, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we came out into the field and we're walking up to the compound, maybe 30 meters away, and listening to the ISR tell me, hey, slant 000. Nobody's inside this compound. So I made the decision, hey, we're going to just bypass this compound. That was in the plan ahead of time. We still got a kilometer. We got to walk. We got to get moving, right? It's the middle of the night. We're doing a night raid. We don't have time to clear every single little compound along the way. So as our element started moving up, we sort of hit, what I would say would be the 10-yard line, and, facing the end zone at this point, and then turn to parallel the building, parallel the end zone with it, and then walk all the way around. And as we got most of our element right in front of that building, the compound moving, basically all hell blew up out of nowhere. Machine gun fire, explosions, gunshots everywhere. So instantly was, what the hell is going on? Come to the realization, we find out later that there's not zero people inside, that this was actually a defensive fighting compound, and there
Oh
was
man.
there was 10 Taliban inside with PKMs, AK-47s, the whole yard. So we are basically standing 10 to probably maybe 10 meters in front of this compound in the open field, um, with basically, all of that coming straight out at us. And immediately all our Afghan guys laid down, and, because it's chaos. And it was me, my 18 Charlie and 18 Bravo, and then my 18 Delta eventually ran up behind me and up past me, because I was the element leader. I was trying to get the Afghan team leader. We're all shooting back and everything. There's all that, but hey, we need to, my biggest thing is, okay, we got to move on this compound, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got to flank it. We got to do something. We can't stand out here in the open. And he's on the ground too, and I'm grabbing him by, the kit, trying to yank these guys up to get them to move to fight, and they won't move. Our 18 Bravo is basically standing in a doorway with the Mark 48, which for those of you who don't know, it's a handheld machine gun that we use, SOCOM variant that still shoots a 7.62 round. Awesome gun, but he's got it basically on full auto, just spraying into the doorway as our other guys were and again, we're right at this point, we're basically have moved up next to the wall, so now it's just a grenade throwing match. And as I'm trying to get guys to move, my guy I worked with the longest in my career, really one of my biggest mentors, with he had 5-6 combat deployments already, comes running up past me and just full sprint yelling, "We got to go." And so at that moment for me, it was there's no point for me to try to get these Afghans to do anything. It's 4 SF guys that are going to have to eliminate this threat. They're not going to do anything. So that became a grenade throwing match, back and forth. Shooting in and out of the doorway. At some point, one of the Afghans close to me got shot, drug him out of the way, threw funny. Everything that's terrible also has funny moments, right? So
For sure.
To get back to that, so I grab him out of the way, throw him out of the way, give him to my XO, whose first time he's ever been. He's not an SF guy. We just took him out so he could get the enjoyment of it. First time he's ever been on an operation. 5 minutes into it, we're in a near ambush, right? So his eyes are that big.
Oh man!
Throw the guy and yell, "Hey, put a tourniquet on this guy! Run back!" So that goes back and forth until obviously it killed 5 or 6 of them, and the other 5 tried to flee out the back of the compound at that point. So the gunfire had sort of stopped, and our CCT was like, "Hey, there's 5 guys trying to flee," which we didn't know if they were trying to maneuver on us or whatnot, and we had an AC-130 watching the entire thing, right? So the AC-130, which for those who don't know about, CAS, as you know, is the nastiest thing in the air, right? And so the AC-130 told us, "Hey, we're going to engage these guys with 105 rounds from probably 40 to 50 meters away." So obviously that was get behind the walls as fast as you can. They engaged a couple different times. And that all sort of died down. But, I couldn't even tell you how long that lasted, right? Because in those types of moments, you really lose track of all time and all that. But so that's the first 5-10 minutes of the operation, right? It's an 8-hour operation. But that was the big heinous one for my element. I ended up running back over to one of the guys that I drug over there, and his tourniquets are all on the ground, right? And he's bleeding out. And it's what are you doing? What are you doing? His Afghan buddies are standing next to him, and he's like, "Well, he said his tourniquets hurt, so we took all his tourniquets."
Oh my God!
Right? So again, even the craziness, there's funny moments. But
that's so crazy.
Our medic got over and treated them, and we got a medevac in. We got those guys out.
Did that dude make it?
The craziest thing, yeah. So amazingly, nobody as many casualties. And there's another near ambush that's even worse. Our 18 Delta got the Silver Star for it later in the operation. But of all the casualties we took, nobody died, which was incredible for that, right? Tons of gunshot wounds and hit by grenades and all that. But so let's see, where was it? I gotta get myself back where I was. Yeah. So
yeah, they had fleed out, hit them. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had all those guys had been eliminated. So then we had to go conduct the operation, right? So that was the thing, was oh, that's the first 5 minutes. We still got to do this. Well, the craziest thing about that is that big open field is our other helicopter, our other our other Chinook with the other element was supposed to land right there in front of that building in that open field, which had that happened, that'd been, how that is
devastating,
with,
yeah.
Oh, that would have been astronomically bad, right? Because they had RPGs, PKMs, that helicopter would have got shot down. But for whatever reason, the pilot screwed up, missed it, flew over the top of it, and landed in a field about 300 meters away. Just pure luck, just
they're
God
usually pretty good. They're
saying,
usually pretty good about that.
Yeah,
so to have them mess up,
they usually don't miss, right? So anyway, we start moving on, and we're trying to catch up with the other element because obviously they're farther up towards the final compound we're trying to get to at this point. So we're booking it through the open field, bypassing everything at this point. And we had gotten our way into another compound that was maybe 50 meters behind where our second element had moved up to, and we were gonna get ready to move to them, and basically got all this chatter that and the ISR could see people in this building next to us, and all this chatter about how they were setting up another ambush for us to move through, right? So we decided to slow down, had to wait for the Apaches to basically knock this compound done with Hellfire rockets. And while that was going on, again, machine gun fire, all this craziness happens, and you see machine gun rounds flying over the top of our compound. We're trying to figure out what's going on. Well, now our other element in front of us is in another near ambush, except for the way it worked for them is they were moving around. And I don't want to, I was obviously didn't witness this one, but this is obviously from the guys who were my teammates who were a part of it. Because we had a compound wall in front of us, so we couldn't actually get up to see what was happening. But they were moving around a compound wall, same type of thing. And as they moved around a compound wall, a bunch of grenades get dropped over the top of the walls on top of them. One of the grenades landed basically in between my teammate's feet and exploded. Obviously, amazing story about that is he was the only one that took no shrapnel. He was the one, it blew his pants off, and obviously messed him up super bad. Yeah. We think crazy. It might've been one of those like Russian pineapple grenades or something, but so they get hit by grenades. All three SF guys get hit by the grenades, the Afghans too. And then they had I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, a PKM set up at the end of the hallway that after they threw the grenades over the top, then they opened up with the PKM. So the Afghans were getting shredded. And so our 18 Delta, basically, it was him and the Afghan team leader, I think, were the only ones still able to fight that had to eliminate the threat at the end of the doorway. And then he ended up fighting through that. The Afghan team leader had been shot in the face, but and our medic had just been hit by the grenade too. So he ended up fighting through that. They eliminated that guy, and then he basically drug out everybody one by one, back out around the corner, treated them. And at that point, we had taken so many casualties that we couldn't continue the mission. We actually never made it to the final objective. So we got forced off the objective, which, I think we had killed 58. I think it was 58 confirmed Taliban on that operation up to that point, but we still looked at that as a sort of as a loss, right? Anytime you're forced off the objective with so many casualties, it's never a good thing, right? So yeah, somehow everybody lived, even the Afghans. Guys got shot in the face and multiple shots to the stomach and all that different stuff, hit by grenades.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. So, and again, our Delta got the Silver Star or 18 Delta, our medic got the Silver Star for what he did in his actions. Obviously, I've always thought that it should have been higher than that, right? Because the only reason probably any of those guys are alive is because he was right after being hit by a grenade, was able to, eliminate that situation and get everybody out, which you read about those types of things in books.